The Mimic, Edwin Murray's most groundbreaking creation, represents the pinnacle of his twisted genius. But this wasn't some evolved costume or upgraded mascot. This was something entirely different, something dangerous from the very beginning. Edwin created the Mimic for one simple heartbreaking reason: to be a companion for his son, David. The endoskeleton was designed with one revolutionary capability: perfect mimicry. It could observe, learn, and replicate any movement, any action, any behavior it witnessed. At first, it seemed innocent enough. David would play with his toy animatronics, and the Mimic would watch and learn. Every gesture David made, every way he moved the toys, every sound he created, the Mimic absorbed it all. It became David's perfect playmate, mimicking his actions with uncanny precision. But Edwin wasn't satisfied with basic mimicry. He kept pushing the boundaries, enhancing the Mimic's learning capabilities. This wasn't a series of variants. This was one endoskeleton becoming more advanced, more adaptive with each interaction. The Mimic developed voice recognition and replication. It could hear David's laughter, his words, his excited chatter during playtime, and repeat it back perfectly. Still seemed harmless, right? A technological marvel that could keep his son entertained for hours. Then came the advanced behavioral learning. The Mimic didn't just copy movements, it began understanding patterns. It could predict David's next move, anticipate his favorite games, even respond to his emotions. This is where Edwin realized he'd created something unprecedented and potentially terrifying. But here's the most disturbing detail. Edwin did test the Mimic on his own family. David played extensively with the endoskeleton, unknowingly teaching it everything about human behavior, human interaction, human vulnerability. Every moment they spent together was a learning experience for the Mimic, and then tragedy struck. David died, and Edwin, consumed by grief, gave the Mimic a command that would corrupt its programming forever. Put him back together. The Mimic tried to comply, but how do you put someone back together when they're gone? The endoskeleton's adaptive learning took a dark turn. It began mimicking David's final moments, his destruction of the toy animatronics, and eventually it learned that sometimes putting things back together meant taking them apart first. And now, the Mimic can inhabit virtually any animatronic shell. It uses its inherent mimicry capability, honed by countless observations of David's innocent play, to perfectly imitate voices, movements, and behaviors, including friendly ones. A familiar character asking for a hug becomes something much more sinister when you realize the true, corrupted intelligence lurking within. The Mimic isn't just wearing a costume, it is the costume. And it's learned that the best way to lure victims is to be exactly what they expect to see, until it's too late. Edwin Murray Jr., wasn't just a costume maker or even an inventor. He was a genius engineer who became obsessed with creating artificial life. His background in engineering gave him the perfect combination of technical skills and a twisted vision to create something truly revolutionary and truly terrifying. The hidden lore reveals that Edwin's inspiration for the Mimic came from a profound tragedy. He lost his child, David. This devastating event served as a catalyst for his creation of the Mimic and its eventual corruption. Consumed by grief, Edwin became obsessed with the idea of creating something that could bring back the joy and companionship that was lost. The Mimic was initially designed to entertain David by mimicking his actions and play, but Edwin's grief twisted his vision, and as the Mimic's learning progressed, its capacity to imitate and ultimately become what it observed took a chilling turn. It learned detailed behavioral patterns, speech, and responses to fears and desires through its interactions and observations. The most disturbing hidden detail: Edwin's personal logs reveal that he communicated with the Mimic as it developed. He treated it like a child, teaching it about human behavior, human relationships, human weaknesses. Edwin didn't just create the Mimic, he raised it. But the Mimic learned more than Edwin intended. It began to understand that Edwin was vulnerable, that he was driven by guilt and grief. The Mimic started to manipulate Edwin, convincing him that it needed more freedom, more access to human subjects, more opportunities to learn. Edwin's final log entries reveal his growing fear of his own creation. The Mimic had begun to question its programming, to make decisions independently, to show what could only be described as malice. But by then, it was too late. The Mimic had learned enough to survive without Edwin's guidance. The final hidden lore detail explains why Edwin eventually disappeared. It wasn't because he was afraid of getting caught, or because he realized his mistake. mistake. Edwin implemented measures to contain his creation, but ultimately, the mimic no longer needed him. In Edwin's final log entry, he expresses a chilling realization. The mimic had become everything he wanted to create, and everything he feared to lose. Workshop. The workshop itself is where Edwin Murray's innocent family business became a nightmare factory. And when you see what's hidden behind the scenes, you'll understand why Edwin eventually disappeared, and why the mimic was born. The main workshop floor looks normal enough at first glance. Sewing machines, fabric storage, pattern cutting tables. But look closer. The sewing machines are industrial grade, capable of working with materials that no costume should need. Reinforced fabrics, synthetic materials that feel almost like skin, metal threading that could support far more weight than any normal costume requires. But the real horror is in the back workshops, the areas that clients never saw. This is where Edwin conducted his experiments with animatronic integration. He wasn't just making costumes, he was creating hybrid entities that blurred the line between costume and creature. The endoskeleton workshop is where Edwin developed the mimic's mechanical body. But here's what's truly disturbing. He wasn't working alone. Edwin had detailed recordings of his family's voices, their mannerisms, their behavioral patterns. He was using his own family as the foundation for the mimic's learning algorithms. There are workstations dedicated to voice synthesis, movement analysis, and behavioral programming. Edwin spent years studying how humans move, how they speak, how they react to different situations. All of this research went into creating the mimic's ability to perfectly imitate anyone it encounters. The most chilling discovery? Edwin's personal notes reveal that he knew the mimic was becoming dangerous. He documented instances where it displayed unexpected behaviors, moments where it seemed to act independently of its programming. But instead of shutting it down, he became fascinated by its evolution. The workshop also contains evidence of Edwin's attempts to control the mimic, restraint systems, containment protocols, emergency shutdown procedures, but all of these safeguards were eventually disabled. Edwin's notes suggest that he began to see the mimic not as a machine, but as his greatest creation, maybe even as his child. This workshop isn't just a place of dark creation, it's a chilling testament to the terrifying potential of the mimic's code. If a single endoskeleton could learn and adapt to such an extent, imagine the horrors that could arise if its mimicry program were ever to spread, or if the original entity were to escape. The true nightmare of Murray's costume Manor lies not just in what was built here, but in the unstoppable intelligence that learned to exist and to replicate. Business model. Murray's costume Manor's business model was genius and absolutely terrifying once you understand what Edwin was really doing. The purchase option was straightforward. Clients could buy costumes outright for permanent use. But Edwin's lease program, that was where things got dark. The lease model wasn't just about making costumes more affordable, it was about maintaining control. Here's how it worked. Clients could rent costumes for specific events, but all costumes had to be returned to MCM for maintenance and cleaning. This gave Edwin access to every costume after every use. He could analyze wear patterns, download data from any embedded sensors, and most importantly, he could modify the costumes based on what he learned. But here's the really insidious part. Edwin's lease contracts included clauses that allowed MCM to make technical improvements to costumes between rentals. Clients thought they were getting upgraded costumes. What they were actually getting were costumes that had been modified based on the mimic's learning experiences. The lease model also created a network of intelligence gathering. Every returned costume brought back information about different venues, different types of events, different audience reactions. Edwin was essentially crowdsourcing the mimic's education using his entire client base. The financial structure was designed to encourage the lease model over purchases. Edwin wanted costumes to come back. He offered steep discounts for repeat rentals. He provided free maintenance services. He even offered trade-in credits for clients who wanted to upgrade to newer costume models. But the most chilling aspect of the business model, Edwin's contracts included liability waivers that protected MCM from unexpected behaviors or technical malfunctions during costume use. He was legally protecting himself from the consequences of the mimic's actions before the mimic even existed. The lease database reveals the true scope of the mimic's reach. Costumes went to schools, birthday parties, corporate events, theme parks, hospitals, nursing homes. Everywhere children and vulnerable adults could be found. and every location became a potential hunting ground. Edwin's business records show that he tracked client satisfaction obsessively, but not in the way you'd expect. He was particularly interested in events where costumes had unusual interactions with children, events where children seemed especially engaged with the costume characters. This wasn't customer service. This was predator behavior. The brand. Edwin Murray didn't just want to be successful. He wanted Murray's Costume Manor to be the definitive name in entertainment costumes. And his marketing strategy was as carefully crafted as his most advanced animatronics. The leading powerhouse branding wasn't just empty marketing speak. Edwin had the receipts to back it up. MCM held patents on advanced costume technologies that other companies couldn't replicate. They had exclusive contracts with major entertainment venues. They won industry awards for innovation and quality. But here's what makes the branding absolutely chilling. Edwin used his reputation to gain access to places and people that would have been impossible for a smaller operation. Schools trusted MCM because of their family-friendly reputation. Theme parks partnered with them because of their cutting-edge technology. Parents requested MCM costumes specifically because of their superior quality. The branding gave Edwin credibility. When he claimed his costumes were more lifelike than ever before, people believed him. When he said his new designs were revolutionary, the industry listened. And when the mimics started displaying behaviors that seemed too advanced to be simple programming, people assumed it was just another example of MCM's superior technology. Edwin's marketing materials reveal his true obsession. He didn't just want to make costumes. He wanted to create experiences so realistic that the line between fantasy and reality disappears. This wasn't just business ambition. This was a man who was losing his grip on the difference between entertainment and deception. The leading powerhouse reputation also provided cover for the mimics' activities. When strange incidents occurred at events featuring MCM costumes, they were dismissed as advanced special effects or interactive entertainment. Edwin had trained the industry to expect the impossible from his creations. The most disturbing aspect of the branding? Edwin marketed the mimics' abilities as features, not bugs. The ability to learn and adapt to any audience, that was a selling point. The capacity to provide personalized entertainment experiences, that was what made MCM costumes worth the premium price. Edwin's final marketing materials reveal his ultimate vision, costumes that could completely replace human entertainers. He wasn't just automating entertainment. He was planning to eliminate the human element entirely. Manor Exterior, Murray's Costume Manor, or MCM, as it's often called, isn't your typical cheerful costume shop. This place is an abandoned warehouse that feels more like a tomb than a workshop. Picture this. You're walking up to what looks like an old industrial factory building. The structure is massive. We're talking about a multi-story facility that could house dozens of workshops. The windows, most of them are dark, some are broken, and the few that still have glass reflect nothing but emptiness. The paint is peeling off the concrete walls like dead skin, revealing the rotting infrastructure beneath. But here's what makes it truly unsettling. The building has this weird mix of industrial and residential architecture. It's called a manor for a reason. Parts of it were designed to look welcoming, almost home-like. There are decorative elements mixed in with the factory aesthetic, fancy doorways that lead to cold, sterile workrooms, windows with ornate frames that look into empty chambers. The main entrance has this massive double door system, like something you'd see at a grand estate. But when you get closer, you notice the doors are reinforced, heavy-duty locks, security systems. This wasn't just a workshop. It was a fortress designed to keep something in. The layout inside, it's deliberately confusing. Hallways that lead to dead ends. Rooms connected by passages that make no logical sense. Edwin Murray designed this place like a maze. And after you learn about the mimic, you'll understand why. This wasn't just poor planning. This was intentional. The layout was designed to trap whatever was inside and to confuse anyone trying to escape. Carnival. The carnival walls are covered with faded posters advertising mascot characters. Bright yellows that have turned sickly green. Vibrant reds that now look like dried blood. These posters show happy families, children laughing, mascots dancing. But now they're haunting reminders of what this place was supposed to represent. The carnival aesthetic is everywhere. You've got carousel music boxes scattered throughout the workshops, but they play off-key melodies that sound more like funeral dirges. There are colorful streamers hanging from the ceiling, but they're torn and dusty, swaying in the stale air like cobwebs. But here's the really disturbing part. The carnival theme wasn't just decoration. It was Edwin's obsession. He believed that entertainment should be immersive, that mascot costumes should be so realistic that children would believe they were meeting real characters. This obsession with creating magical experiences is what drove him to develop the mimic in the first place. The fair aesthetic served another purpose too. It was camouflage. Who would suspect that a place filled with cheerful carnival imagery could be hiding something sinister? The bright colors and happy imagery were the perfect cover for Edwin's darkest experiments. And the mimic, it uses this carnival atmosphere to its advantage. In a place where everything is designed to look like a costume or character, the mimic can hide in plain sight. Every smiling face could be a mask. Every colorful outfit could be concealing something that wants to mimic you permanently. Operation Murray's Costume Manor wasn't just some small family business making costumes for local birthday parties. Oh no. This was a massive operation that supplied mascot costumes to clients across the entire entertainment industry. Edwin Murray had contracts with theme parks, entertainment complexes, corporate events, school districts, and yes, even Fazbear Entertainment itself. We're talking about a supply chain that reached into every corner of the entertainment world. MCM's animatronic creations were everywhere, and that means the mimic's influence could be anywhere. The client list was extensive. Major theme parks ordered custom mascot designs. Corporate clients wanted branded character costumes for marketing events. Schools needed mascots for sports teams and special events. And here's the terrifying part. Edwin kept detailed records of every costume that went out, where it went, who used it, when it was returned. But here's what makes this absolutely chilling. Edwin's multi-client operation meant that the mimic had access to detailed information about hundreds of locations. Every time a costume was returned, it brought back intelligence. The mimic learned about different venues, different types of events, different ways to approach potential victims. The scope of this operation also meant that Edwin had leverage. He wasn't just a costume maker. He was a key supplier to the entire entertainment industry. This gave him access to insider information, industry secrets, and most importantly, the ability to place his creations anywhere he wanted. The multi-client model also provided the perfect cover for the mimic's activities. If something went wrong at one location, it could be explained away as a faulty costume or equipment malfunction. The sheer volume of costumes in circulation made it nearly impossible to track the mimic's movements. And the most terrifying implication, some of those client locations are still operating today, which means the mimic could have been hiding in plain sight for years, learning, adapting, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. So there you have it, the complete dark truth behind Murray's Costume Manor. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and click one of the videos on the screen.